Happy Friday. It is being Guillén, little different type of setup. What's up, guys? Where are you guys at?
Well, we are somewhat warm. It is 70 something degrees out. We are in sunny Miami, Florida. A second home for the Guillén family.
We're not in Miami. We are where are we? Sunny Isles.
Yeah, Aventura to be exact. We wanted to come down, get a little golf action in, go to a pool, and then we're lucky enough that my dad has a place on here in Osney. This is his off-season home. So basically, just going out to eat and watching Osney play in the winter balls and just enjoying this nice weather we're having. Even though Chicago will always be number one, but Miami's a nice getaway.
And by the way, those people they travel with us everywhere.
I see beautiful pictures of Adela, and also, how was the traveling with the COVID and the mask? Any fun stories from that end?
The traveling was the same as before. Now the mask. When you go to sleep on the plane, they make sure that you have it on. Before it wasn't the case, so they're really following precautions. My flight was empty coming from Chicago, which is a bit surprising because flights are so cheap.
Well, my flight was packed, and it's the same way. We had to prevent everything around it. The one who was next to me was my wife, and but we taken very careful about every rule. And besides that, travel with your mom.
It's annoying.
It's like you cannot make one step without saying, "Don't. It's too close. It's too far." Wear the mask. But it's a little uncomfortable though. A little uncomfortable because all of a sudden, get used to put the mask on and you sleep on it. All of a sudden, you wake up but it was fun. It was fun.
I see children that are 4 or 5 years old wearing a
mask.
Wow!
Yes.
And kudos to their parents. I know if you could do that with one of these guys, I'd give you $100.
By the way, if I would give $1,000 to ever make Adela fly with the mask on, that would be impossible to do that.
That's awesome. So we've had shows from Mexico. We've had shows from Las Vegas. We've had shows from now Miami,
Puerto Rico.
Let's do a quick. The part of the show where we do a little bit doing it for the gram and the Guillén family, and what you guys have been doing, your little vacation in the south of Florida. Let's see what we got. And just a little poolside action, and obviously a little golf action as well. But let's get into baseball.
You know what? Before we even get into that, there's a lot more restrictions in the pool.
Oh wow, yes.
Than there are the beach. So if people can hear me, they travel to Miami or Arizona. Being around the pool area is a lot harder. So in condominiums, so you have to going to the beach is a lot easier because there's not restrictions because you're in open air and everyone's doing their own thing.
So Major League Baseball jumping in right away again, another year that is looking like COVID might go away, but controversy does not hold back. The union and Major League Baseball are at odds on when to start the season, which then would mean the pushback of not only spring training, but the amount of games. What is your take, Ozzy, on Major League Baseball and the union not getting along? And should the 2021 season be delayed at this moment, making a decision this early?
It's always happening, especially with the contract time. I think they will sit together. That's how they start every conversation. They start, but I think they're smart enough to put it together, give both sides in the same page. And right now, man, the way they go right now, I don't think people want the union and the owner side be fighting because people be disappointed. A lot of people are very excited because what happened. They played through the pandemic. I mean, a lot of people was very happy about them. At least they making happen. But now, when you start talking about this, some people are like, okay, there we go again. But in the end of the day, they're going to sit back together. They're going to talk about it. They're going to get the best out of both sides, and they will be, they'll be okay, and they will be playing when they figure out who's the best. Not just for the players. Obviously, the players are number one, but I don't think they want to go there and make this thing making a big deal. Hopefully, they're not making a big deal about this.
Well, and my take is that all negotiations, like he said, start off at this point. They're not going to start off, all rainbows and happy-go-lucky. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be figured out, and I think it's in everyone's best interest to get anything that resembles an actual season. What do I mean by that? Meaning that, remember, last year's spring training was cut twice. So a smooth spring training, a smooth season, meaning closest that you can get to 162, because obviously the owners, they want to get this thing on track. And this is going to eventually lead to more fans coming into the stands, as we see in Europe and NFL and other leagues.
By the way, Ozzy, I think I always say spring training games is too many. I really believe so, it's too many. But I think they need to use that for the pitching staff. Those guys got to be certain amount of innings to put it together and be ready for the season. But I always say I think spring training is maybe a week too many games. The players they get bored, they get tired, they want to get out of there the quickest they can. But I think the main thing, spring training is hard for the pitching staff.
We have someone asking a question saying that since there's rumors of the vaccine coming out, at a good show, the friend Eddie Kaz asking, since the vaccine is coming out sometime very soon, that's probably going to be more lenient for the season to get back to normal. And that's what we all hope for.
That's something that is yes and no, because the restrictions of people going to stadiums, okay? And the owners, I think, are scared if they're going to allow people in stadiums. I think that if you go to a stadium, they're still going to make you wear your mask, okay? I think that there's going to be new rules. There's also rumors that Major League Baseball might use as a bargain for the amount of games that they will make players take the vaccine. How do you guys feel about Major League Baseball forcing players to take the vaccine? Do you think that they should have the option of choosing? How ethical is that of them using that as a bargain to saying, okay, we'll play more games, but everybody has to take the shot?
Everybody has to take the shot, Ozzy. I know just as baseball. I think everybody is going to be. I'm not going to make people say, "Hey, you have to." It's a rule, but in the end of the day, they're going to make something like to come here, you got to use vaccine. I think I don't want to take it. I said, I don't. But others say, I said, you know what? If those guys take it, why I can't take it? The problem is, you're not going to do anything in the United States. They're going to make you use it. What's the excuse going to be? I don't know. But I think every player had to take it. They did it before with different things. And I think it's be precaution. It'd be great for them to make sure they're fine.
I do not agree with the owners using that as a form of manipulation at all, because I believe in freedom, and I believe that the stuff that this country was based on was having the right to choose. And when you take someone's right away to choose, then that is doing things that other countries do that we won't even mention on this show. So I believe every player that is a grown adult has a choice, just like every fan has a choice to take a vaccine and to do these sort of things. Obviously, everyone's going to make their choice with their best interest in their mind. Guys might not play next year that we saw. Guys will not play because they're not comfortable in playing environment. If your kids you are in charge of your children. Anyone that's over 18 years old, I think you're allowed to make your own decisions. And I think guys will, there's going to be guys that are not for it.
That's going to be discussion with the Play Association.
Do you think there's a disconnect between the Players Association, the players, and Major League Baseball?
Oh, I think there's been a disconnect for a long time. And I think Trevor Bauer has been at the forefront of talking about how in all of the biggest major sports in America, whether that be MLB, NHL, or NFL, I think MLB is very not in touch with their players union as other teams are. And that is why guys in MLB complain about not being marketed as well. I mean, there's a guy named Fernando Tatis Jr. who just got a national marketing deal. Have you heard about it? Have you seen it about it? He just signed a deal with Gatorade. And
Major League Baseball has not really posted anything. But again, I don't think you guys even know this. I am on the list of people that might not be able to take the vaccine.
And why is that?
Because of my pre-existing condition of my autoimmune disease.
Exactly. So
arthritic psoriasis. So again, I didn't even know that until last night when I saw the list of things that people that might be at high risk. They're talking about fertility. Again, I think it's going to be something. I just thought it was very interesting that the union might use as a bargaining chip.
I also saw something about fertility and being dangerous for women being able to get pregnant later on and it being a complication. These are a lot of things that obviously we're common folks, but MLB and these players that are going through a lot of these things, I don't know how you can really force these upon these guys to be able to make this decision.
Well, the other part is this.
It doesn't have to do with just baseball. It's your life.
The other part, Oni, is that's interesting is this, that they only played 60 games last year because there was limited travel. If you play 140, 130 games, you're not doing that against your own division. There's going to be some time of travel if they want to make that many games happen, because I don't think people want to see Kansas City, Detroit 25 times.
No, and that's the other thing. You're also dealing with travel. You're also dealing with other things. There's no such thing as a bubble when it comes to the season. The owners want to do as many games as they can, because the more games that they do, the more money they get with revenue and TV deals. And even the TV networks, everybody wants fans to go in. I just don't see it happening. I don't see another season happening for 60 games. I see something happening for 100, 120, and they're going to come to some sort of agreement. But it's going to be, the protocol will be even more intense than it was last year because they already had a trial run. So you won't get any Justin Turner, cases like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Players Union and MLB comes up with in order to reach that goal, because they have to come up with something. The NBA just had their shortest offseason in the history of their league.
Yeah.
60 days, their offseason, and they play again. They're already in preseason. The NBA making MLB look bad if they don't start on time.
Yeah, I agree.
It's funny because, if you're a grown man and you just play 150 games, I always say 162 games is too many, because they should moving down and make the playoff more interesting and make the World Series in better weather. But I think that they have to be a grown man. They have to know exactly what happened during the season when everybody had to take care of themselves. Like, okay, I know how to be babysitting you guys when you guys know this thing's still around. Hopefully from here to March, stuff is being better. The vaccine, a lot of people be taking the vaccine and what?
Vaccine. Visine is what you put in your eyes.
And you have a vaccine. So, and I think they're going to have more experience with that. And I think that's going to work better for the ball players.
And we have a comment from one of our users, Jose Big Z Zuazu. He's saying that, remember, every state is different. So what if, like, hey, you have to have in Texas, you have to take it, but in Missouri, you don't.
Well, so it's going to be something that I think that the conversation here is deep. We're going to have to keep digging on this, keep investigating. It's definitely not going to go away with the 2021 New Year's. I want to talk about something more positive in the game of baseball that happened this week. The Negro Leagues, okay? The Negro Leagues finally, okay, when I say finally, the Negro Leagues were never recognized, okay? When you played in the Negro Leagues, you were never recognized as a Major League Baseball player. The Negro Leagues ran from 1920, okay, to, I believe, 1900 and 1948. That's exactly what I thought. That was like 1960, but it's not. I was completely wrong with my dates. But the Negro Leagues basically, from the 1920s to the 1948 season, if I am not mistaken, was a great league, obviously, because it had a lot of talent, but it was a league that was created because African-American and minorities were not allowed to play Major League Baseball because of segregation. Yeah, last week, Major League Baseball, okay, and probably Rob Manfred's best move, recognizes these men that played in the Negro Leagues as Major League Baseball players. What does that mean? That means that all the stats that Minnie Minoso had in the Negro Leagues are now added to his stats in Major League Baseball. That means that everyone is now one big league. And in the history books, now these guys are a part of the game. Ozzy, what's your opinion on this great feat that Major League Baseball has finally done?
Love it. One thing about it, I went to Cooperstown with you a few years ago. They got to make them bigger because a lot of good numbers out there. A lot of great numbers out there. I think that Negro League opened the thing. I was one. I always tell people to go to the museum back in Kansas City. I think Martin De Eagle, a Cuban guy, should be in Hall of Fame almost every country that played the game. Now you had to be a chance for that. But I think it's great. I think finally, because those guys, he has superstars out there that play the same way we are here in big league. And I think that's a great move by Manfred after all this fiasco about baseball rages and all this stuff. I think that's the greatest thing, and they make it happen in big league this year.
Oni?
I think Rob Manfred, after having a lot of criticism his way, I think he deserves positive reinforcement for what he did. And to me, it's also very special because I grew up as a big fan of the Negro Leagues. I know who Josh Gibson is. I know who Satchel Paige is. All these guys are a part of the game. And one of the things that if you saw when the Negro Leagues ran, you know, there wouldn't be Mookie Betts now without those guys. And Babe Ruth wasn't facing African Americans. Ty Cobb wasn't facing African Americans. There was contemporaries that during on in that time that the Negro Leagues were saying, hey, we're just as good as this guys, if not better.
Even better, yeah.
But they didn't compete against each other. They were competing only against other African Americans, which is kind of the fans are the ones that lose because you never saw Satchel Paige pitch against Babe Ruth, which would have been great. So it's kind of great that those guys are going to be recognized because they're a part of our game. Now more than ever, we wouldn't have Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., and all the great African American players.
A lot of African great ones.
So the Negro Leagues are part of MLB. So instead of it being the Negro Leagues, now it's just part of MLB history.
So I think my question is this. So should the Hall of Fame, considering this now for the next maybe 10 years, open up an extra spot where you honor someone that might have not gotten the chance to play, and now since the statistics have changed, start a committee and say, okay, let's look at the guys that are borderline, that now with these stats, they definitely would get in, and let them in the Hall of Fame, which sadly it's past their time because most of them are no longer with us. But do you think that the Hall of Fame should make an exception for the next 10 years and create a committee for that voting?
I don't think they're going to make an exception. I think they have to do it. They have to do it. They're part of baseball now forever. They have to make another, you know, how you say that when you build
like another wing?
Another wing. Yes, there you go. Another wing to show those people, just to give everybody the opportunity to recognize those guys, to see those guys, who those guys was. You know, see little kids like, hey, look, this guy was so and so and so. They could have played in the big league. I think it's tremendous, and I think they will bring those guys in. Whoever got the numbers and deserve to be in Hall of Fame, they have to. It's too bad. Maybe his grandkid, they got to do the speech, or granddaughter, or whatever. But you know, I mean, I think those guys they did maybe harder than we did, harder because they went to very tough time with them. Now great stuff, and they played the game.
You know what? It's we always give credit to Jackie Robinson because he was the one that was picked, but there was guys that were just as deserving or more deserving than Jackie before him. It's just everything right place at right time. So it's great that these guys are getting the recognition. And I think guys like, you know, Amini Minoso, Larry Doby, or any of those guys, as long as they have the merit and the credentials to get into the Hall of Fame, I don't see why they shouldn't get enshrined. Even though it'll be a family member, obviously, because all of them have passed away, but it'll be somebody that it'll mean a lot to that family, and it'll mean a lot to that community.
It is. I think it means a lot to the community. And before we change, it's ironic, okay, super ironic that we are keeping people out of the Hall of Fame because of personal views. And the reason that Jackie Robinson was selected to become the first guy to cross the line, it was because he was allegedly the perfect guy because he wasn't considered a militant. So even back then, like now, we were punishing guys that were better talented to be able to make the cross of the line because it was so important. And again, it's sad. I keep thinking about Dick Allen because Dick, for example, who passed away less than a month ago, had the numbers, but he was such a in-your-face type of guy that he rubbed the media the wrong way, and he was kept out because of his beliefs. And now we have the same situation happening now, just again, different colors.
What I think is that the human, we're evolving. We're learning to be more compassionate, and we're living in different times where you should be.
Are we? So it's just different now. I think we are, but I think that we're still doing the same thing now. The characters have just changed.
Yeah, the roles are more reversed. But
correct.
If anything, the world now is we are far more accepting to things that weren't in the past, whether African Americans, homosexuality, any of these things, we're welcoming. And this is why people come to this country, is because we don't, you're not supposed to condemn anyone. So I'm glad that MLB is doing this.
By the way, I have an opportunity to talk to a lot of old school Latinos and Black players when I was young, and especially Dick Allen. And the reason Dick Allen was like that, because that's the way he grew up, is the way protecting himself. Let's put it that way. He was protecting himself for anything else. And you talk to Chico Carrasquel, and he told me the stuff they used to do to them, and not stay in the same hotel, they don't eat in the same place. It's kind of sad. Now it's not perfect, and I hope it be better. But now it's a little bit better than it was then.
Yeah, I always say it's ironic because you're like, he was mad. I'm like, well, he just had to go sleep and eat somewhere else, and he wasn't welcome. And now you're asking him a question by the same people. Yeah. So again, congratulations to the Negro Leagues. If you have a chance, visit the museum.
Please
get their gear on Team Brown. Amazing Negro League. They have awesome names with great gear. Some of them should be brought back. But
by the way, by the way, if you go to the museum, I always say that people have to go to the museum. They see people, a player from Japan playing for another country like Cuba. I mean, it's a different experience. I think people should say they just go up there and take a look at it.
So let's get into our final topic of the day. Let you guys go back into your awesome vacation. But free agency in the year 2020 to 2021 has been like nothing we have seen before. There is up in the air if we're still going to have a DH. We don't know. The season and when it starts and the amount of games, we don't know. All the top free agents are pretty much not signed. The biggest sign, I would say, would be the James McCann. But right now, currently, there is less than probably 25 guys signed to their teams. When you click on the list of players that are unsigned with free agents, I could create probably 3 or 4 Major League Baseball teams. What is happening in this hot stove in this offseason, guys? And where do you see these guys going?
I think it's going to be a domino effect. I think people are waiting for the big chip to fall. The big chips being those 2 guys that you see on the screen, George Springer, Trevor Bauer, and who people consider the best catcher in MLB, which is JT Realmuto. Those are the big dogs. Because you can see like today, like a great signing for the Tampa Bay Rays, Michael Wacha signed today for $3 million. You're getting some very, very low end deals from guys. Santana of 2 years, 17. I think once George Springer goes to the Mets, yes, I do think he's going to go to the Mets, but they're going to set the bar, whether it's how much money are these guys going to invest into George Springer during a pandemic with a new owner who's loaded. Those are the things that we're going to see, because some of these reports out there, they have George Springer landing in the Mets, and they have other big name free agents going there as well, whether that be Nolan Arenado via trade. The Mets have deep pockets, and I think once George Springer falls off, Springer and Bauer fall off, you'll see everyone follow, and you'll see everyone be below them economically in years.
But, I hope they don't make that excuse that we don't have the money to pay you guys because the pandemic, what we suffered last year, obviously everybody know how much money the owners lost. And I think they had the right to say, hey, listen, we went through this last year. We know what is signing that many guys for that much money the way it was. And I think that's why it take a little longer. I think, by the way, when you say free agent plus no DH, that can get on like, wait a minute, I know what to sign this guy in 7 years, 8 years when I can not play outfield anymore. I can play here in the DH. If you keep the DH in place, I think there will be more opportunities, and I think people will sign long-term contract because it can be DHing in his career, and that DH will help Major League Baseball and fans and everybody to give those guys another opportunity and stretch his career a little longer.
It really does suck for everyone that's going through this and being a free agent and having the years that these guys have had. It really is a shame that you're not going to see what these guys were able to do in a real free agent market, because owners are reluctant because of fans and because of the money. And I totally understand that. You got Lance Lynn signing for $8 million. Like owners are making really cost-efficient deals because they don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, it's Bauer. You the owner, Ozzy. You would have signed Bauer. I ain't signed Bauer 8-year deals when he only pitched good for 2 months. You know what I mean? And he only faced.
Well, he's pitched better than 2 months. He was the Cy Young, but I know what you're saying.
I say, do take him for more stars and face everybody around the league. People think about it. Wait a minute.
Okay. And I didn't know that Marcus Semien is a free agent. He'd be a great pickup.
I think he's a great pickup. But the part that's interesting is, and I think the Mets are doing the best job so far. They signed James McCann, a solid catcher, for 4 years, got themselves out of the Real Muto sweepstake, and now they have other areas to fix. I feel that because of sabermetrics, okay, and analytics, and people being more business cautious, you're not going out there like you were doing in the 90s and the 2000s and basically getting a guy just because he was there and you had the money. I think now, even though last year the biggest move of the offseason ended up in a ring with Mookie Betts, how often do we see big signings ending up in a ring? Bryce Harper goes to Philadelphia. They're not even making the playoffs. The Nationals get rid of that money. So, like, is it better to sign a George Springer, for example, okay, on a team like the Seattle Mariners? Or is it better to get that money and spread it across 5 players and give you a better chance to compete? Do you guys think that they're looking into saying, do we really want to spend this much money on one piece?
Well, just because maybe what happened in the past, Giancarlo Stanton, the money, you can barely stay on the field. It's one of the big, in other hands, you have the center fielder for California Angels, signed a big contract, doing tremendous job. But that's when you sign a free agent, it's a gambling. Is that going to cost me that much? How much money, how many years they're going to cost me? I think right now the owners and GM, they worry about how many years this guy can produce. Okay, 6. Here is 6. Before they say, no, I don't want 6, I want 8. But I know my client is going to be good for 6. But the next 2, that's you guys' problem. I think nowadays, there's a lot of talent, young talent in baseball, and I think owners, they're going to say, you know what? I'd rather go with a kid for 6 years and give this guy a 6-year contract.
You also have to remember this. A team like the Mets got handed $27 million in their lap. Thank you, Robbie Cano, for not playing. Let's go sign James McCann and other guys. That money comes off the books. But it's very hard because what do you tell teams? I want you to sign someone like you did Cano with Seattle and basically just go out there and do nothing, but you're spending money. Or do you tell teams, hey, let's spread this money out between 4 or 5 guys? I think that teams like Tampa are at a very great advantage because this is nothing new to them.
By the way, Ozzy,
and I think it's their way of build. This is how we always build teams. We know
they let go of Hunter Renfroe. He actually signed with the Red Sox. Their best player in the 2020 season is now not even going to be on their team.
Do they still have Randy Arozarena?
They do have Randy Arozarena.
They'll be in the playoffs.
But the funny about it, this is why I rattle me myself. I'm talking now. I play.
DJ LeMahieu's also a big free agent out there.
They were off by $25 million with the Yankees. That's how off they were in the offering.
Okay, this is what I say. If I own the team and the GM, and I say, well, is I going to spend this much money with Pedro, and I'd rather spend this much money with Pedro, Luis, Alberto. I'd rather bring 5 guys and not just bring 1. Not just because what they went through last year. You know what I mean? And that's why people are thinking right now, everything is by numbers, everything. But before, in my time, when you first sign a free agent, it's just because fans will love it. No matter the guy was good enough, fans like nowadays, I don't think.
Well, I think that when you're looking at, and I'm looking now as from a business standpoint, okay? A guy like Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, you look at their contract, you say, wow, that money is worth it, okay? But then anybody else that got signed after them, you say, wow, this was really bad spend money. I feel that the gap between greatness, okay, greatness, and I'm talking guys that compete for the MVP and are amazing players, Mookie Betts, for example, and the next guy next to him, I feel that the gap has opened up where they're not going to pay you like they used to. For example, you used to came from the era where Cal Ripken made $8 million, you made $7 million because you played just as many games. Now they would tell you, no, Cal makes 8, you're making 1.
If you want to.
If you want to. And that's what I feel like that gap.
You're right.
I feel like that gap is becoming a lot bigger.
Ozzy, I have a question for you before we sign off. Was Miguel Cabrera's signing in Detroit worth it for the Tigers?
No.
1 out away. 1 ground ball away to Justin Verlander that he threw away. And if they don't sign Brad Ausmus and they sign Ozzie Guillen, they make the playoffs. Best team to never make it to a playoff. That Tigers team, 2 bad moves. Miguel was worth it at the time.
Yes.
And he gets them the ring.
And he won a Triple Crown.
So he has been worth it. It wasn't his fault that they made a mistake of signing really guys around him that weren't good.
So like you said, when you sign guys and they do that well, then it is a positive. But when you sign guys you sign a guy like we just signed, 10 years, Seattle and Robbie or with the Mets, that is not a good sign.
That is a bad sign. Robinson Cano put them back 10 years. And I was arguing this on Twitter, and this is going to be before we sign off. Somebody said, obviously, typical Chicago, typical White Sox fan, I'm going to say it. I do not want to be the Cubs because they're in a bad situation where they can't go spend money on who they have. And they traded away all their prospects.
They won a World Series and they won a World Series and went to 2 NLCSs.
Correct. So
they would do anything.
The chances of the Dodgers repeating next year are probably higher because we don't know what the season's going to look like. And there's teams that are probably going to make it because it's a different format. But to win a World Series in 162 games and doing it the following year, the odds are against you, okay? Yes. So when you're looking at a World Series, if you get 3 in 5 or 6 years, you're you're considered maybe a dynasty now. So for when you're making those big moves, if the Chapman moves was worth it for the Cubs, they got a ring, okay? The moment the Yankees get 1 more ring, okay, I think it's going to be number 28, Stanton, Garrett Cole all become it was worth it. If you get 1 ring, every single bad move or signing that you did goes away. If you don't get that ring, it's looked like you were a failure.
And before we sign off, I want to say hi to everyone at Top Bar Chicago. They're watching us again at the bar, and they're wondering why Ozzy isn't super sharp like he normally is. This is Ozzy vacation mode, beach mode.
So here's the part. I love the fact that they're watching the game at a bar 15 years ago at 12:30 on a Friday. You would have been there. I might have been there watching a show with them, enjoying myself a cocktail. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you for watching us. Guys, stay safe. Have a great time. Enjoy the beach. Again, stay safe. If you're going to the beach, stay away from people. Don't get a horrible suntan with a mask on. And we love you guys, and we will see you guys soon.
All right, can't wait.
Next by the way, the beach is very cold, brother.
We don't go on the beach; it's too cold. And watch next week. Christmas show is gonna be great.
Yeah, Christmas show is gonna be amazing. Hopefully, Ozzy wakes up. You think Ozzy's not sharp now? Wait till you see him at the Christmas show. Have a good one, everyone.
By the way, kiss to my babies. I miss them so much.
Oh, please.
I do. No, I don't. I do.